Okay. That was great and beautiful. Seeing it just this sitting right here so close. It's just such a beautiful film.
Thank you.
Something you mentioned earlier, which I think is really true about the movie, is that you have to skate between comedy. It's not even really comedy, it's just humor. Like, I think so many things in it are really funny. The lines, the writing's hilarious. The lines are hilarious, and Colin Farrell's great and his delivery. But that's an interesting thing you had to balance with this, because this is pretty. It's still funny to me, but then I might be the right person for that. But even though it's tragic and sad and everything like that, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe when I talk about that a little bit, the balancing act.
I mean, it's such a it really is a difficult element of the editing, of finding that Martin's script is almost like a piece of music. That's how I read it, and also when you see the way the actors deliver the lines, it's very rhythmical, and especially with the Irish language. Jonathan, you can maybe help me with that because I'm Danish.
Yeah.
So for me as a foreigner, it really felt like almost like a piece of music and a ballet. And then you have to tone the film and find a balance of this. When is something? I mean, first of all, it's all about the characters, and you have to
Right.
feel that they have to earn the right moments and try and feel these, find these small slices of life where you really feel and sense them as characters, which was what John Gregory was so good at, really, especially on so many of the Mike Leigh movies. He was an amazing editor to find why do you actually do the edit. It's the thing in between, and why do you take things out of it, right? So on this one, it was really interesting for me to try and find that balance between light and dark, comedy and drama, and then try and like tune it and turn it into this tragedy
Right.
in the whole end, where you almost take out all the small funny moments in the scenes, which leaves together with Siobhan, who's the kind of heart of the film,
Right.
the female character. But then you can bring it back in the voiceover again, because it's a delivery between the two of them, Siobhan and him. And then how do you find that balance of cheese on cheese, I would call it, which is like say, if you say the things that you see, or you maybe it has a different connection, like talking about your animals, and you know that Jenny is dead, but he's saying that everything is okay. But then playing with time of the policeman arriving at the thing. So you're playing with time together with this whole idea of a letter sent someone, and when is this? Is this when is present time? When are we actually present? Is that almost like the end of it with the horse? And so it's just a really playful and interesting way to work with montage. And I think even it's like a signature for Martin to have these voiceovers in all his films in the end. But for me, it was such an interesting, rewarding experience to work with it and find that balance of it.
Right. Right. It's also funny. Again, go back to it's funny, but he totally lies in the letter too. There's not much other news going on, and he's burned down his friend's house, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that could be news,
But I mean, that's where you can play with where it has a double meaning, almost.
Right.
The things like,
Yeah.
do you put those lines on
On that
image
image.
of a house that's burning, or do you put it on him being sad, or what?
Right.
What do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
And we played a lot around with it, which was so much fun. Yeah, and then a film finds its own language, and then hopefully, I mean, the whole idea is that that the film finds its own language, and
Right.
it feels like its own, that it's not a copy of something. You can be inspired by so many different films, for sure.
Right.
But it has to feel like
It becomes its own thing.
it
It becomes its own
and it
style.
has its own style, and it has, and that also has to do with how we work with the sound on this one, to try and give Jenny almost a voice. So that small bell that you see,
Oh,
that
yeah.
the horse is knocking off the table, it's just a small thing, but it just reminds you of that, what he actually the loss from Porrick, and these are the small elements that I mean, that we should all seek and try and see if we can find and challenge the material. It's basically challenging the material and see how many different versions can you actually do like a montage in.
Right.
And then you can move around with the scenes. Do you need to see when is the Dominic, the reveal of Dominic? When do you see that compared to the dad, compared to other things? So it can be told in so many different ways, and that's like turning every stone and trying it out. And
Did you guys try many different versions of that?
no, of course. I mean, our job is to challenge the material and see what's the best possible way to put it together. And I really have my job is not done unless I've tried everything. And I really try to stay as open and not have an opinion on anything until as late as possible in the whole process. Because I wanted to stay open, and you bringing ideas to the table might actually be interesting. Us showing it at preview or with friends, and how people react, and then that's where you if I already come in and say like I know how to cut a comedy or a drama, or it just becomes a copy of something. You have to be open-minded. You have to challenge yourself, and even though it works really well, you still have to challenge it.
Right.
And the worst thing would be that you come to me and say like, why didn't you try this one? And I would be like, my God, why didn't I try it? I mean,
Right.
It has to be an active choice, even though you don't like it.
Right.
It has to be an active choice from us.
Right. I know we should probably get going on the next thing, but just really quickly, it must have been great to cut those performances for one thing, but going back to something you just said too, how do you know, like, how do you keep clear that you've picked the right performance? And this could go, anyone can jump in because it's all the same for us. I often rely on my first impression. Like, when I first see a take that I think is really good, I kind of get married to that and I try to build things around that. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about that, but
I mean, especially in the process of selecting, that's first impression, and that's how I work. I don't edit. Actually, I watch the material and select it and mark it, and that's the first impression for weeks.
Right.
I try not to show anything until the full assembly. I try to get out of sending scenes to producers or directors or anything.
Right.
So you can like watch material, mark it, do selects, get organized, and then over time you suddenly find out how the DP, how the actors, how the director talks, and the material suddenly reveals itself,
Right.
and you have a sense that there's a feeling in this. And I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's more of how you react to it at some point, and it feels real, because fiction is so difficult to make it alive somehow, and especially also with animals, because it's so like go from A to B, but it feels so mechanical. So how do you make that feel almost seamless and elegant? And we have to find these small the elegance in the things and make it feel alive. Sorry, do you agree, all of you? Thank you.
I think one of the things that is a testament to what you're saying is just when you're watching it, it feels so obvious, right? Of course you cut it that way. Is how it feels when you, as an audience member. And you know, they say the easier it looks, the harder it usually is to get there. So yeah, I mean, I love that. It feels like such an elegant way of wrapping up these storylines, but also just making you re-examine the words that he's saying. And I agree as far as kind of like constantly interrogating the performances. Your first impressions are often, you know, your gut reaction is there for a reason, but I think it's a really healthy thing to keep constantly re-interrogating that and questioning yourself and making choices. Even often I'll watch something and say, oh, that's definitely the take I'm not going to use, and then I'll catch myself and say, well, now I have to try it. Now I have to try that take because I wrote it off so quickly. There's that kind of mindset is such a toxic mindset to being creative.
Right. Can't be closed-minded. Okay.
And I mean, there's the director, of course, right? So
Right.
he needs to approve it, and
Right.
it's a
It's a
collaboration.
collaboration.
Yeah,
Right.
But at least challenge it.
Yeah.